Hey everyone. So, all the parts for my BMW have finally arrived. And so today, I'm going to show you how to either lower or replace the front suspension on a BMW E34 540i. Now, I'm probably going to make this video over a few days, so the lighting's going to change, I'm going to be wearing different clothes, whatever. But I'll do my best to walk you through what I'm doing, and hopefully I do it right, and we learn something. Let's have a look at what we're going to need to do the job. Okay, so in terms of tools, this really isn't such a hard job. At least getting the strut out by itself isn't hard. What you'll need: car jack, axle stands, some sort of socket set or a brake bar, whatever floats your boat, even an air hammer, tire iron if you don't have one of those, gloves. You're going to need a few spanners. I don't know exactly what sizes, but you'll need spanners, and probably just some other tools lying around that you might need. We'll see how we go. You're also going to need your new parts, and I'll give you a look at those now. Okay, so depending on what you want to replace, you're going to need your new stuff. I'm replacing all of my springs and all of my shocks. So it's in my boot of my car, so I can't really show you too well, but I've got a set of Bilstein and Eibach lowered springs, not too far though, just a little bit lowered, and new shocks for both the front and the rear. We're only going to be using the front today. It's a good time to replace your strut top mounts as well. So, step one, while you've got the car on the ground, go find your tire iron and loosen all your nuts. You don't want to do this when it's in the air because your wheel will spin and it's quite annoying. Alright, so the nuts are loosened. It's time to jack up the car. Now, I don't know if I do this right, but I like to come into the front of the car and lift up of the K-frame, which is that big black bar in the middle there. Okay, so the car's jacked up. The next thing to do is remove the brake calipers away from the strut assembly. I'm planning to do this by removing the two guide pin bolts, which are at the back of the caliper. There's one up top here, and one down the bottom here. And I'll just give you a good look. So I've already removed the plastic caps that cover these hex bolts here, you see. But that's an M7 hex bolt, or whatever you want to call it. And you just have to undo those. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, now once you've undone these bolts at the back so that they're no longer inside the inner part of the caliper, you need to remove the anti-rattle clip. Now this is easy to get off. It's just a spring clip that sits here. Get a screwdriver and pry away at it until it pops off. Now once that's off as well, the inner part of your caliper should be able to come off. There we go. Okay, now that it's coming off, you need to either hang it from somewhere above where you're working or support it from below so that the brake caliper doesn't hang on its brake line. So I'm going to put this back on temporarily, go find something, and then put it back together. Okay, so I've just made a pile of bricks, very high tech, and rested the caliper on here. You have to be careful because there's I think this is the brake pad wear sensor wire, and it'll want to pull as well, so just sort of put it somewhere where it's not going to fall over or damage those. I believe the next step is to undo a sensor at the back, so I'm just going to have a quick look and I'll get back to you. Alright, so there's a plug for wiring, probably the ABS, which sits there. I know that's really blurry, but there's a little hex head underneath this plug, and you can remove it, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that now. Okay, so it's just an M6 bolt, and it comes out very easily, and then you just pull back on the plug, and it's this long piece here. Okay, the next step is to make sure that all your wiring cables are unhooked from their little holders on the knuckle. This one pops straight out. All you have to do is pull it quite firmly this way, and also pull out your brake line from its holder here. It's the same thing, it's protected by this grommet, so it's not going to bust your brake line if you just pull on it. Okay, that's all the electrical crap out of the road. So once you've removed your electrical lines and also the brake line from their holders on the strut, they just pop straight out. The next thing to do is to remove your stabilizer bar link, which attaches to the top of your strut, which is this one here. Okay, so in order to remove the stabilizer bar link, you need to counter hold the shaft of this bearing, ball joint, sorry, not the shaft, whatever you want to call it. There's two flats on this part here of the shaft, which you could grab. I think this is a 16, and that fits fairly well. So you can just chuck that on like so, and hold it in place. And then all you have to do is get a socket on this end. You might have to use a universal joint socket. I'm going to go ahead and undo this now. Alright, and there we go. This is the top of your stabilizer bar. It pops straight out, and there's a single lock nut. So put this lock nut somewhere safe. You're not going to lose it, label it, whatever. And then the next step, I think, is to remove the 3 bolts at the bottom of the strut, and I'll show you that in a second. Which you can see here, 1, 2, and 3. You get them straight out, and then the entire strut can slide off the bottom part of the knuckle away from this ball joint here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start doing that. Okay, so it's a 19mm nut, a bolt, sorry. So I've just got to break a bar from an extension, and you just have to crank away and get all 3 undone. Alright, here's a side view of these nuts coming out. This is a better view than the other one. So you can see as you get them loose, they come right out. I'm going to get these out, and then we should be able to remove the top mount nuts, which are in the engine bay, and then that's it. The whole strut should come out. Okay, so we're completely finished down this bottom end, except for maybe a bit of pry work. The next step, excuse me, is to undo these 3 small nuts at the top. This is what holds the top of your strut to your engine bay. These are usually pretty easy to get off. See, they're not very tight at all. That took barely any effort. Just do them evenly, very carefully. Watch this. If you can, put some bricks under it. I might do that so it doesn't fall. Okay, one more thing to note before you go trying to pull this out. Your brake pad wear sensor is actually a plug, so you can unplug that. That's unplugged. You can see here that once those 3 bolts are out down the bottom, you can just sort of pull this back and it will fall out. So I've got mine pretty much all the way out now. All that's left is to finally get those last bolts out, hopefully not drop this onto the ground. I'm going to put a box underneath this so I don't damage my desk. Alright, so I'm down to the last bolt. Once this is off, the whole thing should fall out. Okay, and that's it. That's it for getting the strut out. It comes straight down. I had some padding so it hasn't hurt it. There we go. Okay, so I've got the left side off. I've showed you all the detailed steps of how to do that. I'm going to try and set my phone up and just record from back here, and you can watch me in double time or triple time remove the strut. Alright, and that's both of my front struts removed off of the front of the BMW. It doesn't take too long. I think the last bit took me about 20 minutes. And if you're better than me, then, you know, you can probably do it in 10. Hey everyone. So today I've got all the parts ready to replace my old shocks and springs on my front suspension. Soon that'll be back in and my car will be nicely lowered at the front. I wanted to change these myself at home, but I just don't have the right tools to get the nuts off, and I don't have a pipe wrench to get the retaining nut that holds the shock onto the knuckle. So instead I'm going to take it to a mechanic I know down the road, and hopefully for not too much money he'll use his air gun and be able to pull this apart for me and swap out my springs. Let's see how it goes. Oh, okay, it's not coming all the way up. See? Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Jeez.
There you go.
Awesome. Bit oily.
Yeah, there's a little bit of oil.
I just got back from the mechanic and we successfully changed out all the shocks and springs. It was pretty easy. He let me use his tools, so I got to help, which is good. Now the next step is to clean everything up and then chuck it back on the car. And I'm also going to check the torque on all my ball joints that I replaced a while back and just make sure that they're A-OK. Okay, so once you've cleaned up all your surfaces, make sure this is nice and clean. All you have to do is do exactly the reverse of when we removed it. So lift up the strut into the housing here and do up the nuts. Do it up loosely, then rest it on here, lock tight those bolts, put them in, and then you can start tightening them down. And then all you have to do is just attach your stabilizer link bar, reattach all your lines to your strut, reconnect your brake pad sensor, put your brake caliper back on, and then you're done. Yes. Okay, so I've successfully lifted the new strut assembly up into the car. All I did is I lifted it up here, loosely did up these bolts, just so they're somewhat steady. And then the next step is to do up the three lower steering arm to strut bolts underneath. Now, I've already, just because it's a bit tricky to do with one hand, I've already gone ahead and put them in. So you can see one there, there, and there. I've just done them in finger tight for now, so everything lines up. Now this is very important. What you have to do, you have to take them out one by one and I put some Loctite, red Loctite on them. 263 works. Just put a little bit on the threads and then you have to torque them down. You've got the bolts in with the Loctite applied. Use a torque wrench if you want to and torque them to 110 Newton meters underneath. I'll do that now. Now with those torques, the next step is to put your stabilizer bar link back on. And you want to tighten this one to 60 Newton meters if you want to use a torque wrench. So that's the one that clicks at the back. I'm going to do that now. Okay, so after you've done up your stabilizer link bar at the back, it's probably a good idea to torque your top nuts now to their final torque, which is 22 Newton meters, so not very much at all. After that, it's as simple as going through, plugging all the lines we disconnected in back and putting the brake caliper back on, putting the guide pins in, and then lowering it, putting it back in the ground. And that's the whole job done. That's this side done. I just finished putting in the guide pins here, and I also forgot to mention, but I also put the ABS sensor back in the back with that single screw. I put the anti-rattle clip back on, gave the brake caliper a quick clean so there's no dust on it or dirt, and that's it. That's one side done. Now I've run out of batteries on this camera or this phone, so I won't do a full shoot of the other side, but you can just watch the removal video and you can understand how to put it back on. Anyway, that's how to replace your strut back in with new shocks and springs. Right, and the job's done. Sorry I couldn't film everything, but I put the front back together, and as you can see there's a bit of a difference from before. I'll try to put a picture up of what it was like earlier. But that's a noticeable drop for me, and it feels amazing. I just took it for a test drive. So yeah, not such a hard job. The rear's next. I'll have to put up a video for that one as well. That'll be really soon.